They told you history was about kings, wars, and discoveries, but what if that was only the cover story? What if the timeline you memorized in school was crafted to hide the truth of who you really are? Imagine realizing that your ancestors weren't primitive, but powerful, beings who mastered energy, consciousness, and creation itself. The rewritten history turned those truths into myths, so you'd never suspect how much power lives inside you. Every generation inherits the same illusion, that progress started recently, that ancient civilizations were naive, and that we've evolved from ignorance to intelligence. But what if it's the opposite? What if we've been descending from a forgotten golden age into spiritual amnesia? It's a controversial thought, one that rattles the very foundations of what you've been taught to believe. Yet, the evidence of a forbidden past is everywhere, in symbols, monuments, and whispers that refuse to die. And here's where the paradox begins: the moment you start questioning the past, the present starts revealing its lies. You realize the rewritten history isn't about dusty archives, it's about you. Because the story of humanity was never just written in books, it was written in your body, your energy, your memory. And now, something inside you is starting to remember. Most people grow up believing that history is a set of unshakable facts, a tidy sequence of events neatly placed on a timeline. But in truth, what we call history is often a curated story, trimmed and adjusted to fit certain interests. Civilizations with vast spiritual knowledge were rebranded as primitive, while their discoveries conveniently vanished from textbooks. That's how a rewritten history was born, one that teaches you where to look, but never how to truly see. You see, every empire that rose to power had a reason to reshape the narrative. When you erase ancient technologies, you also erase the idea that humans once lived in harmony with nature and energy itself. The forbidden past was sanitized, edited, and then handed back to you as education. It's like someone handing you a map with half the continents missing. You'd still believe it's the whole world, wouldn't you? That's exactly how hidden history hides, in plain sight, behind the illusion of completeness. Think about it: how often have you heard about the same 3 cradles of civilization, while countless others were reduced to footnotes? The Sumerians get a chapter, but what about the builders of Göbekli Tepe or the lost libraries beneath the sands of Egypt? That silence isn't random. It's strategic. Because if humanity ever remembered the magnitude of what it once was, the current systems of control would start to crumble. The rewritten history was never about the past, it's always been about power. And that's the catch: you were never meant to know how much you've forgotten. Every missing record, every destroyed temple, every mystery unsolved serves a purpose: to keep your perception of yourself small. But here's the thing: the moment you start asking why history was rewritten, you begin to reclaim your true timeline. And that's when the real story starts to unfold. Those who control the story of the past, control the direction of the future. It's an old strategy, simple, but devastatingly effective. By reshaping collective memory, powerful systems decide what humanity should value, what it should fear, and what it should never question. When the forbidden past is erased, people stop seeing themselves as divine creators and start living as obedient followers. It's not just propaganda, it's the art of rewriting history to program identity itself. Imagine a child who grows up believing they're powerless. They'll never reach for greatness because the story told to them doesn't include greatness as an option. That's how humanity was treated, as if our ancestors were ignorant cavemen who stumbled into progress by accident. But when you dig into hidden history, you realize the opposite is true. Ancient civilizations possessed wisdom about energy, consciousness, and the cosmos that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. That wisdom was buried, not lost. And the motive? Simple: dependency. The less you remember who you are, the more you rely on the structures that define your worth for you. Religions, governments, and institutions all benefit from your forgetfulness. They prefer subjects, not sovereigns. When you forget your roots, your soul starts orbiting around artificial sources of validation. That's not a coincidence, it's architecture, psychological architecture built to maintain control. But once you recognize that control depends on your amnesia, something inside you stirs. You start to see through the cracks, noticing how certain truths don't add up. The timeline you were taught starts feeling like a script, one written to keep you in the audience, not on the stage. And that's when the search for the forbidden past becomes more than curiosity, it becomes rebellion. Walk through any major museum and you'll notice something strange. Artifacts that don't quite fit the official story are labeled mystery or ritual object, and then quietly ignored. Pyramids aligned with celestial bodies, megaliths carved with surgical precision, and cities built with techniques we still can't replicate, they're all sitting there, right under your nose. Yet the rewritten history frames them as coincidences, as if ancient builders were simply lucky with their cosmic math. Cultures separated by oceans tell the same myths, map the same stars, and build temples according to the same energetic principles. How could that happen without some shared origin? Hidden history whispers of a unified civilization that predates what we've been taught, a civilization with knowledge of energy, chakras, and celestial mechanics far beyond our current grasp. But because that truth threatens the modern narrative, it's labeled as fantasy, pseudoscience, or just stories. Think of it like a puzzle scattered across the globe. Pieces lie in Peru, Turkey, Egypt, and Japan, megaliths, carvings, sky maps. Individually, they seem unrelated. But when you start connecting them, a forbidden past emerges, one of cosmic alignment, spiritual engineering, and a humanity living in sync with universal forces. You begin to realize that the truth isn't missing, it's encoded everywhere, hiding in plain sight like a watermark on reality itself. And once you start seeing those watermarks, you can't unsee them. Suddenly, museums feel like libraries with torn-out chapters, and history books look like redacted files. You'll start asking yourself, if this much evidence of a hidden history survived the rewrite, how much more lies buried beneath your feet, waiting to be uncovered? When a story is rewritten, it's not just information that's lost, it's identity. Generations have grown up cut off from ancestral knowledge, unaware of the hidden history encoded in their own bloodline. Without that connection, people drift through life feeling like something is missing but can't name it. This is no accident. When the forbidden past was stripped away, so was your sense of belonging to something vast, luminous, and powerful. Look at how traditional healing, intuitive arts, and energy practices were replaced with external authority. Where your ancestors trusted inner alignment, modern culture trains you to seek permission, certification, or validation from outside. That swap wasn't random, it was a calculated exchange of sovereignty for dependency. When you lose that lineage of wisdom, you also lose your ability to self-heal, self-govern, and self-remember. This is what a rewritten history costs, a quiet erosion of inner power. It's like taking a majestic tree and chopping off its roots while expecting it to bloom. Sure, it may still stand for a while, but it can't truly grow. The same happens to a society disconnected from its multidimensional origins. Without that deep root system, practices of creation, manifestation, and cosmic alignment become distant myths instead of living tools. People stop seeing themselves as creators and start seeing themselves as mere observers. And here's the subtle hook: reclaiming history isn't about memorizing dates or rewriting textbooks. It's about identity recovery, remembering who you are before the world told you who to be. Once you taste even a glimpse of that remembrance, the question naturally arises: what else has been hidden? Your body carries more truth than any textbook ever could. Deep within your cells lives an archive, a record of your ancestral line, your energetic architecture, your forgotten essence. That's why moments of déjà vu, unexplainable memories, or sudden emotions often feel like echoes from somewhere beyond this lifetime. The rewritten history might have erased the narrative from books, but it couldn't erase it from your DNA. The real story never left, it's just waiting to be remembered. To access that hidden history, stillness is key. Meditation and breathwork aren't trendy wellness hacks, they're portals. When you breathe with awareness and sit in silence, you're tuning into the same frequencies your ancestors once did. You're reactivating dormant memory fields. Start small, 5 minutes of deep, rhythmic breathing a day, followed by moments of listening rather than thinking. The more you do it, the more you'll feel the veil between timelines thinning. But don't stop there. Read what the system discouraged you from reading: ancient texts, suppressed archaeology, indigenous oral traditions. Books like the Emerald Tablets, the Nag Hammadi Library, or even Fingerprints of the Gods open windows into the forbidden past that mainstream education boarded up. Approach them not as fantasies, but as fragments of a story your soul already knows. You're not learning, you're remembering. And that's the beauty of this journey. The moment you start questioning what you've been told to never ask, the real timeline begins to shimmer beneath the surface. You start sensing it, like a heartbeat under layers of stone. And if you listen closely enough, you'll hear the next chapter calling you to live it. When you begin to remember what was hidden, life doesn't just change, it deepens. Colors seem richer, your intuition sharper, your choices more deliberate. You stop moving through life on autopilot and start navigating with a quiet authority that comes from within. The rewritten history loses its grip because you're no longer living from borrowed stories. Instead, you're standing inside your own timeline, guided by something older and truer than the systems built around you. This shift shows up in everyday life. You start trusting your gut more than public opinion. You begin to see through manipulations, trends, and distractions designed to keep you asleep. Even conversations feel different, shallow talk feels heavier, and meaningful connections feel magnetic. This is the hidden history coming back online in your nervous system. You're no longer dependent on external validation to know what's real, your internal compass becomes your map. It's not always easy, though. Awakening to the forbidden past can feel isolating at first because you're seeing a reality that others might not yet sense. But with time, you'll notice your tribe appearing, people who resonate with your discoveries, who also sense the cracks in the official narrative. Together, you begin weaving a new collective story, one based on remembrance rather than amnesia. And that story is far stronger than the one you were handed. And here's the hidden invitation: when you live with the knowledge they tried to erase, you stop being a passive consumer of history and start becoming a living bridge to it. You're not just remembering, you're rewriting your future with every choice you make. And once you cross that threshold, you'll realize, the past can never be rewritten again. So now that you've seen how deeply the rewritten history runs, the question is, what will you do with it? You can't unsee what's been revealed. Every monument, every silence in the record, every strange resonance you feel when something clicks inside you, it's all calling you to remember. Will you keep walking the same old path, or start tracing your steps back to the forgotten origin of your soul? Start small, question what you've been told. Read the books they said were nonsense. Visit the places they call ruins, and listen, not with your ears, but with your energy. Practice stillness until you can feel your own timeline vibrating beneath your skin. Because once you awaken the forbidden past within you, the systems built on forgetfulness start to lose their power. You stop living in someone else's version of reality, and start writing your own. So tell me, what part of your history are you ready to reclaim? What memory, what truth, what power feels like it's been waiting for you all along? Let that curiosity pull you forward, it's your soul's compass pointing home. If this message resonated with you, don't let it fade. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay close, because we're about to keep unveiling what they never wanted you to know. The journey doesn't end here, it's only beginning.